right, for my last mid-round league winner, I am going with the tight end position. I'm going with Hayden Hurst of the
Yes.
Atlanta Falcons. There's been some hype going on for Hayden Hurst in the fantasy community, but I look at his ADP and he's still the tight end 13, which just blows my mind. He's going around the ninth, 10th round, which for me, if I'm going to punt the tight end position and I can get Hayden Hurst around that ADP, I am thrilled. And I look at Hayden Hurst and I just see a lot of opportunity here. One, he's got the talent. He was a first round pick just a couple years ago. He was drafted ahead of Lamar Jackson in the same year. And two, he's going to Atlanta where they're clearly just so obviously trying to replace that Austin Hooper role with Hayden Hurst. So I think Hayden Hurst has the belief of the Atlanta Falcons organization, of the coaching staff, and definitely Matt Ryan. Listen to this quote from Matt Ryan. They've been working together a little bit this offseason. Here's what Matt Ryan said about Hayden Hurst. He is for sure one of the fastest and most athletic tight ends I've ever played with. He's a mismatch problem. He's going to create separation and win in different ways. So early
That's
on,
big.
Matt Ryan seems like he really likes this guy, and it sounds like, you don't know what to buy into when players talk like this or coach speak and things like that. But it sounds like Matt Ryan really likes this guy. I can see them building a really strong rapport throughout the season, and I don't see why he can't reach that ceiling that Austin Hooper had last year. Austin Hooper was the tight end 6 last year in just 13 games. He averaged 7.5 targets a game. That's a 16-game pace of 120 targets. I think Hayden Hurst could potentially hit 120 targets. Right now, I have him just shy of 100. But if he gets some extra volume in this Atlanta Falcons offense that's known to pass the ball a ton, they had the most pass attempts in the entire NFL last season with 684. There's no reason to believe Hayden Hurst could not get close to that 120 target level. Over his past 10 seasons, Matt Ryan has averaged 4,400 passing yards a season. So I know there's Julio Jones in Atlanta as that guy who's going to get 1,500 yards a season. And Calvin Ridley is a popular breakout candidate as well. But there's still plenty of volume to go around in this offense. Hayden Hurst is my tight end 7 right now, but I think there's major upside if he does get that extra bit of passing volume up to that 120 target level, and if he sees the touchdown volume that we'd like out of the tight end spot. If he can creep up towards 10 touchdowns this year, there's no reason to think he can't be right in that top tier. Maybe he's not quite with Travis Kelce and George Kittle, but I think he could easily finish as an upside play as a tight end 3, as the tight end 3.
Wow. That's a super hot take right there, but I love it, man. I have Hurst as my tight end 8 as well. I think you said he's your 6?
My 7.
7. So I have him at 8, so we're both pretty high on Hurst. And here's the thing. It's really hard to project a guy blowing up that we haven't seen haven't seen them do it before. But here's one of the biggest takeaways, and here's why I think Hayden Hurst is actually a hidden gem. Because when he was on the Ravens, they were leading every single game pretty much. They were just able to run the ball again and again and again. They didn't need to air it out. But we saw in that game, in that playoff game, where both Hurst, Andrews, all the Ravens, Lamar Jackson had 59 passing attempts in that game, which is just ludicrous. And it was a game where, the Ravens were down and they needed to air it out. And in that game, Hurst actually had a very, very good stat line. So Mark Andrews saw 7 targets. Hayden Hurst saw 6, so 1 less, but actually outscored Mark Andrews in every category. So Hayden Hurst in that game had 4 receptions for 53 yards, so that's a 13.3 yard per reception. And then he also had a touchdown in that game, and I feel like that's kind of the baseline that we could see Hurst get to, or at least creep up to, in the Atlanta Falcons offense. And it's kind of like because he was on the Ravens, he was this hidden gem, this secret value, and I think that's why Atlanta was willing to pay up a little bit to go and get Hurst. Do you remember what that deal ended up being? I remember it being what I thought was a little bit high.
Yeah, they traded a second-round pick to get him.
Atlanta believes in Hurst. I think they really do expect him to fit in this role. And with that, he was on the field for 41% of snaps. That was essentially the same as Mark Andrews. He just wasn't utilized a ton last year, but when he did get his chance, he shined, especially on the big stage in the playoffs. So if we have to look at like a glimpse, like have we seen this at all? I think we have seen it. We saw it on the big stage.
Steph, I have to mention one massive thing working against Hurst this season. It's the one thing that I have not heard a single person talk about this on any fantasy podcast, any football podcast.
Really?
but it's so glaring and something that could be very, very, very concerning for Hayden Hurst's season this year. You want to know what it is?
What's that?
So, little known fact, Hurst actually played on the Pittsburgh Pirates for 2 seasons. He was drafted in 2012 by the Pirates, played in their organization, and he gave up. This is according to Wikipedia, so give or take what you want there, but he gave up baseball because he had the yips.
What does that mean exactly?
So the yips is when you literally stop being able to do a function. So think about a third baseman gets the yips. He suddenly loses the cognitive and physical ability to throw the ball to first base. So some people get the yips and they lose the ability to drive a car. And all of a sudden they have this mental block and they just can't drive a car. So Hayden Hurst quit his baseball career. It literally says he attributes it to the yips. So who knows? If he immediately loses the ability to catch a football, it could be a huge red flag for all fantasy owners everywhere. So just had to throw that out there. Maybe someone hacked the Wikipedia page and they're messing with me. And it shows he's an athlete, honestly. He was able to play baseball with the Pirates. Turned down a scholarship from Florida State.
Wow. I mean, here's the thing about Hurst, too. I mean, he's an incredible story. If you go and read up on Hayden Hurst, he's dealt with addiction, drug problems, and finally it feels like he's cleaned up, ready to go. He had a good season last year. I mean, maybe it's not like something that shows up in the box score, but he was a pivotal part of the Ravens' success. He was on the field, like I said, just as much as Mark Andrews. So if you think, oh, Mark Andrews is a pivotal piece, yeah, maybe Hurst wasn't doing as much in the receiving game, but he was on the field just as often. So, you know, I hope Hurst has a great season, honestly, for his own sake. He's an incredible, just inspiring story. But man, that actually just blew my mind there. Hopefully the yips never happen again for him.